Welcome to the deep dive, where we take these really messy, complex human dynamics and try to offer a kind of blueprint for what's actually driving the conflict.
And today we are wading into some very, very choppy waters.
We are. We're talking about the friction between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law, specifically how that tension plays out inside the home.
It's just a universal point of suffering for so many people. And the usual way of looking at it, is that it's just a personality clash, or maybe two women competing for one man's attention.
Right, but the sources we've looked at today suggest that explanation is, well, it's just not enough. It's not even close.
Not at all. Our mission here is to strip away that emotional layer and look at this through a really surprising analytical lens.
A lens that views this not as a matter of feelings, but as a structural, almost political disagreement.
And look, here is our promise to you. If you're listening to this thinking it's just about who loves the sun more or who has better taste in furniture, you are going to miss the entire point.
You really are.
Yeah.
So we want to stress this. You have to focus on this entire analysis with us.
Because by the end, we guarantee you'll have a completely new perspective. You'll see these fights as something much deeper and way more primal than just hurt feelings.
Exactly. So let's set the scene. The scenarios are so common they almost feel trivial, which is why they're so maddening. We're talking about the mother-in-law, the MIL, who has the house code and just uses it, lets herself in without asking.
Or the refrigerator, finding it just completely jammed with side dishes she brought over, pushing aside the food the daughter-in-law, the DIL, just bought.
Then there's the physical stuff. The rearranging, the living room furniture is suddenly different.
And of course, the big one. Intervening with the grandkids, giving them sugary snacks right after you've said no sugar. It directly contradicts the parents' rules.
All these things, they create this massive, seemingly out of proportion rage in the daughter-in-law, and it's often inexplicable, even to her.
Which brings us to the first major hurdle, the husband's blind spot.
Yes, the man in the middle. The sources are pretty clear that his first reaction is almost always to minimize it.
It's just mom being mom, or, she's only doing this because she loves us. Why are you acting so sensitive?
And that dismissal is so destructive, it just completely invalidates what the DIL is feeling.
She feels suffocated. She feels this rage. And his reaction forces her to ask herself, is it me? Am I just a person who doesn't like my mother-in-law?
Right, and the whole thing gets stuck in the realm of emotion. But this is where our sources just force a radical shift. What is the hidden meaning here? What's really going on with the side dishes?
Okay, so the sources are clear. These actions are not fundamentally about love or devotion. They're described as a form of, get this, original or primitive marking of territory.
Marking of territory, like an animal.
It's a behavioral residue, yeah, akin to an animal marking its zone of influence.
So the side dishes, they aren't a gift. They're area marks.
Exactly. They're a way of saying, I have been here. My ways, my rules still matter in this space. It immediately lifts the whole fight out of love versus dislike and puts it into the world of, well, of power in space.
That reframing is everything. Let's dig into that. What territory specifically is being marked here?
The sources break it down into two crucial areas. First, control over food. The source calls it sick rang provisions, subsistence.
And the second?
The second is control over space and the future. So that's the furniture, but it's also the upbringing of the children.
Control over food is, that's ancient.
Yeah.
Whoever controls the food supply has the power in the home, traditionally.
Precisely. By filling the fridge with her food, the MIL is unconsciously reasserting her role as the primary provider, or at least the one whose methods are dominant. It's often not malicious, it's just a habit of power.
And what about the space? Rearranging the sofa? How is that so potent?
Well, think about it. The DIL has created her own order in that home, her own system, her aesthetic.
Her rules.
Her rules. And moving the furniture or jamming the fridge with food that wasn't planned for, it's an act of overriding that system. It's an act of erasure.
So the message isn't, this looks better over here. The message is, my rules still take precedence over yours in this house.
That's it. It's an unconscious power play to confirm who is the real person of influence here.
And that explains the rage. It clarifies why the DIL's anger feels so existential. It's not about her taste. It's a violation of what the source calls her sovereignty.
Yes, that violation triggers an existential fear and rage. It's this feeling that the border of your personal domain, the place where you make the rules, has been breached without permission.
It's like a foreign entity just planting a flag in your capital city.
Exactly. You wouldn't say, oh, but they're so friendly. You'd be furious, and you'd be right to be.
So this brings us to this huge metaphor. The aha moment we've been building towards.
This is where it all clicks into place. We have to stop seeing a new marriage as just two people getting together.
Or even two families merging.
Right. We need to see it through a political lens. A new marriage is the founding of a completely new independent nation. It's a sovereign state, totally separate from the parental nation.
So this isn't a family squabble.
No.
It is a territorial war.
A diplomatic dispute over borders and jurisdiction. And that reframes everything, especially the husband's role.
He's not just a son caught in the middle.
He is the head of state. He's the leader of this new nation.
And this is where his failure can be so catastrophic. When he says, she means well, don't worry about the key, he's failing a fundamental duty.
He is. In that moment, he's not being a good son. He is acting as what the source calls an incompetent patriarch. He has abandoned his post as the border guard.
He's choosing, essentially, to avoid a conflict with his mother by sacrificing the sovereignty of his own new nation.
And the consequences are severe. The source warns that by carelessly opening the gates to his mother, the king of another nation, the new family risks becoming a colony.
A colony? And what does that mean for the wife, the DIL?
It means she becomes a subject in her own home. Her self-determination, her rules, her order, they are all constantly being overridden by the invading foreign power, the parent nation. And that leads directly to years, sometimes decades, of suffering.
Wow. So the real conflict isn't between the two women at all.
No. The true conflict is a test of whether the husband is mature enough to establish and protect the borders of his new nation. Can he be the border guard?
So if we follow this to its logical conclusion,
Yeah.
What's the solution? What's the principle for peace and sovereignty?
It's actually very simple, but it demands a huge shift in mindset. The rule is this. Regardless of how close you are, when parents visit the independent household, they must respect and follow that household's established rules and order.
No exceptions.
No casual trespass, no matter how good the intentions are. Sovereignty requires respect, not just familiarity.
And that framework, it gives the DIL the language she needs. She's not saying, I hate your cooking. She's saying, I need you to respect the sovereign order of this household.
Exactly. It makes the boundary a non-negotiable necessity, not just a personal preference. It removes the guilt. It validates her anger as an appropriate response to a political violation.
It changes everything. We started with something as small as side dishes in a fridge.
And found that they represent massive issues of power, control, and national sovereignty.
For anyone stuck in this dynamic, just understanding the difference between love and territory. That's the first step.
The personal is absolutely political. And boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're just borders that define where your nation begins.
Which brings us to our final thought, the thing we want to leave you with.
We've talked a lot about the husband's role as the border guard, but there also needs to be a clear diplomatic agreement between the two heads of this new state.
Between the husband and wife.
Right. So the question is this. If you truly view your marriage as a newly independent nation, what specific border security duties must be clearly established between the two of you? How will you hold each other accountable to make sure your national sovereignty is never, ever compromised?
That's the real work of independence. Something for you to explore on your own. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.